Diego, and you're now tuned in to Breaking Down the Breakdown. On today's episode, we are going to talk about how overthinking can destroy everything. Hello, everyone. This is so funny because I know y'all were probably wondering, was the season done? Because there was no episode uploaded earlier. I am just really late. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube right now, I am wearing shades because I just woke up. All right. And I know most of the time I look scuffed anyway, but like today I look extra scuffed. Like I look like super scuffed when I'm just waking up. So, I ain't trying to have none of that. But welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's episode, there's an explanation for this. I've been dealing with a lot lately. I feel like I'm always dealing with a lot. By the time I talk to you guys, I'm like, guys, guess what? But I don't think I've ever actually touched upon this subject in the way that I want to, if I ever did in the past. And it's only really recently that I realized just how much overthinking has been involved in my thought process when it comes to doing things with my career, with my relationships, with my friendships, even with the podcast. Let me just start off by explaining what happened last night. It was 2 a.m. and I was freaking out because I was like, shit, I forgot to film an episode. So I'm going to go film an episode about overthinking. And I kid you not, I got 10 minutes into recording it. But it was the funniest thing ever because I'm sitting here and I'm saying things, only I don't know what I'm saying. Like, I would say things and, like, I'm trying to recall what I just said a second ago, and I forgot. And I realized because I really needed to sleep. I was tired. I was like, this ain't it. It was, I have the clip saved somewhere, I think. I don't know. I really hope I saved it because it'll be funny. But anyways, that's another example of overthinking. I was so scared that I wasn't going to, how do I put it this way? Like, if I wasn't able to upload anything by 5 a.m., which is usually my deadline, that people would lose interest, or, oh no, this is going to go wrong, or, oh, people are going to say I'm inconsistent again. And even then, right? First of all, it's my podcast, right? I do what I want with it. But consistency is nice. But the point is this. I should be able to do this podcast when I want to. And yes, I wanted to do it then, but would the quality have been the same? And the answer is no. And more on that later, with overthinking and quality, going hand in hand. Because I do feel like for a lot of us, we kind of take it to like an nth level where quality, is kind of eclipsed by perfectionism. I don't know if some of you are kind of the same way, but I'm that way. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But, bringing back to this, I was just kind of like, okay, well, I can just do this tomorrow. It's still Tuesday. It's still a day where, I would like my podcast to be released. And nothing really changes. So, a few hours late, but that's it. So this is just an example of what I mean when I talk about how overthinking can ruin everything, right? I could have actually pushed through last night and had done such a shite job of this episode. Nothing would have been coherent. People would have been alarmed and be like, is Steven okay? But let's dive right into the other aspects of overthinking. For a lot of us, overthinking is very, I would say, present in terms of relationships. Work, yes, of course. Work too. But I don't think anything screams overthinking as much as relationships. And it doesn't even mean that you have to be in the relationship with the person already, like romantically. But relationships like friends or even just the dating stage of things, right? A lot of people tend to overthink things. And I have great examples I'm going to talk about later, and I really hope that the person that I'm going to be kind of talking about understands why I'm talking about this. But one of the examples that I can give that I've personally lived through when it comes to overthinking has been my own relationships. My very first relationship, everybody knows I talk about him a lot. He is like the benchmark for who I am as a person now, and I mean that in a good way. I really, I strongly believe that he just doesn't give a fuck about my existence, which, is fine. Like, I don't want, it's not like I'm going to be like, oh, please, like, when you think of us, like, think of all the good stuff. Like, hopefully there was some good moments for him in that relationship, right? It's just that, unfortunately, the version of Steven that he met back then was not really the greatest version of Steven at all. And a lot of my thought process was fueled by intrusive thoughts and overthinking. And they came hand in hand together. It was very much like yin and yang, but no balance. It was the worst fucking combination ever to exist in a human being. And a lot of it stems from my past. A lot of it stems from my traumas, which, as you already know, if you've listened to this podcast, we always refer to, because I am trying to drill it into everybody's head that a lot of the things you are dealing with right now came from your past. And there is a difference when, between living in the past and dealing with your past, right? Like, it's a very different thing. A lot of people are like, well, I don't want to dwell on it. You're not dwelling on it. But the fact that you don't want to think about it or even deal with it means you are dwelling on it, because it is so apparent in your life. But one of the cognitive distortions that your traumas could actually bring to the forefront would be overthinking. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a traumatic experience for do that. Sometimes people are just overthinkers, right? If you believe in horoscopes, cancers are definitely on top. Unfortunately, I have trauma and I'm a Cancer. Again, double whammy. But there were moments in my relationship where I was convinced that they were unhappy for no reason. Because and this might trigger a few of you right now listening to this or watching this, but have you ever been in a situation with your significant other or the person that you're kind of dating, and the slightest of change you start to overthink? I know a lot of you are like, where the fuck is this going? Now let me tell you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you are so used, and by so used, okay, I will say this, you've been talking for 3 days straight. Am I speaking from experience? Maybe. 3 days straight, and you're so used to them saying sweet dreams, every night, right? And somehow on the fourth night, all they said was, all right, I gotta go to bed. Good night. Now, how many of you sat there, looked at your phone, and wanted to be like, hey, is everything okay? How many of you sat there, looked at your phone, and thought to yourself, I guess they're not that into me anymore? How many of you were able to catch yourselves in that line of thinking and say, okay, I'm fucking overthinking this shit. The person's probably tired, wants to go to bed. I'm going to do my own thing. And how many of you actually sat there the entire night to look through all of your messages to see the consistency of their messages to you? Yes, I just attacked maybe 94% of the dating community. But you have to wonder, right, where you got that from. You have to wonder why you think that way. And for some of you who are, when we talk about attachment styles, for some of you with secure attachment styles, some of y'all don't care. You'd be like, good night, good night. And then you go on and do your thing, right? But see, this is where the spiral begins. For a lot of us, we can take it either offensively or defensively, right? When you take things offensively, sorry, not take, sorry, when you do, when you react to it offensively, right? You start to kind of do what I said we were going to do, which was ask, hey, is everything okay? Or you're gonna kind of send like weird messages. I don't want to say weird, but like messages with like special meaning to it, like subliminal messages almost, kind of like to try and fish out information. I know some of y'all do this. Some of y'all do this with me. Have I done this with certain people? Yes, I'm not going to lie about it. Do I still do it? Not really. I was able to kind of rein it in. But for some people, I know when y'all are fishing. All right? I've been there, done that. And again, I cannot blame you for feeling that way or doing these things because you're trying to figure it out, because you want to sort it out for yourself. Granted, fine. And then how many of us starts becoming defensive? And we start to kind of take this into a whole new territory. We plant the seed ourselves, and we actually destroy ourselves by doing this. Some of us will start thinking, okay, well, they're not that interested in me anymore. Okay. Fine. You know what? Two can play that game. I'll start giving them the same energy back. What energy back? No sweet dreams? Some of us will take it to that level where it's not just no sweet dreams. It would literally start to be like one-word answers, because one thing that you didn't expect, that you didn't like, happened to you. Maybe that is also offensively. I don't know. Maybe they're both offensive. But I've done that. And I used to do that with my ex a lot. Oh, that sounds like I was going to say axolotl. Sorry. It's early in the morning. I get distracted a lot. But do we see how destructive overthinking can be? The slightest thought that comes out of overthinking can actually derail something that is so fucking good. Sorry, water break. For those who are listening and just heard that sound. Let's talk about work. I know of a friend who overthinks almost everything at work. They think that if they're not able to do this one thing, and I've seen it in action, okay? I've seen it in action. Do they work with me? They have worked with me before, but I'm not going to confirm nor deny if they're not with my workplace anymore. But anyways, my point is this. When I worked with this person, they were very frantic. And for no reason. Yes, it's a fast-paced store that we work at. You do have to be on your toes. You have to be, a certain type of like energy to be able to thrive in the store. But the craziest part about the whole thing is this person was. I feel like this person was actually one of the best people I've worked with. And I don't understand why they were putting so much stress on themselves. And then when I remember asking them, I was like, hey, yo, like, you need to just relax. You're doing such an amazing job. And they're like, no, you don't understand. There's this, there's that, there's this, there's that. And I was like, I do understand. I work with you. I do the exact same things that you do with no stress. I'm having so much fun. But it's hard for that person to, have the same kind of attitude towards work that I do, because they overthink the work. I don't know what goes through their minds, but I can only imagine that if they might feel inadequate if they were caught slipping, like I'm doing air quotes right now, like slipping on the job because they were having too much fun. And I think the wildest part about this entire thing is I've worked with them when it was so busy and we were both having so much fun. And it was because at this point, this person didn't really care because things happened and we were having so much fun and we were just as productive. Sorry, I don't know if you guys heard that, but there's a really crazy rainstorm happening in Toronto right now. But y'all know where I'm getting at with this, right? What did my friend ruin with their overthinking? It's that they now have to come to work and feel that they have to be stressed out every time they're on the floor. Why would you want to work in an environment like that at that point, right? So many people ask me how I'm able to survive my workplace for 9 years. I've been there for 9 years, right? And I've seen it all. For the people who have worked at my Starbucks with me, or has phantom there, or has even like come into the Starbucks, they can see the kind of craziness we deal with, right? We get the best customers and also the worst customers. We really fucking do. And I would complain to my friends, I complain to my exes about work, and it can get stressful. But not once did I actually leave. I would some days I'd be like, fuck, I fucking hate this job. I'm just gonna go, right? But then I kind of take a moment, and this always happens when I do come into work. I take a moment, I look at the people around me, I look at the people I work with, and I say, you know what? Actually, I love these people, and I focus on that. I focus on who I work with, and it allows me to not overthink so much about what could go wrong if I do have fun. Not the best example for a lot of people because, people can't just switch their brains like that, so I understand. But all I'm saying is that it is possible. And for some cases, don't worry. I know. I also have a different friend who overthinks their work, and I can't blame them for it. Because they're surrounded by toxic individuals that makes you overthink things. So you see, there are certain types of overthinking, right? But there's a category for the certain type of overthinking that you can control yourself. That is not induced by other people, not induced by events that you can't control. So that's what we're dealing with here. Because I can't tell you what to do when it comes to other people. But what we're dealing with here, right? And what we're trying to, I don't want to say normalize, but what I'm trying to let everybody know here is that a lot of us do overthink. And I believe that a lot of us have ruined a lot of good things in our lives because of overthinking. And not just overthinking of other factors, but overthinking that we created on our own. Let's talk about, let me bring this back to the in-between, right? There's overthinking with friendships. There's overthinking with who you're dating. And, there's also overthinking with, I don't want to say it because maybe not a lot of people can relate to this because maybe they have a healthy family dynamic, right? But when it comes to family, oh my God. Now, I know I just talked about my trauma with my mom last episode. It's actually really funny. Mom, I love you. You know that. She watched the episode, and all she could say is, put me on the show so I can respond. I don't know what that's going to mean. And I got to talk to her about that. I do want her on the show, but I want her to be able to respond in the sense that, not in a defensive way. So if you're listening to this, Mom, I don't want no defensive responses. Remember what I've said. Everything has been forgiven. Everything is water under the bridge. Unfortunately, it is part of history, but it also is why we are good now. So, you know what? Anyways, when it comes to overthinking with your families, mine is a very particular one. Mine is very specific. Mine is very unique, right? As a Filipino immigrant coming to Canada, right? A lot of people in the Philippines, they think that once you're in Canada or in a different country, you've made it, you're rich. I will say this. I wish I still had the same relationships I have with my family members back home. I do with some of them, but with some family members that I have, growing up, that I've only ever had the fondest memories of, I can't talk to anymore. because I overthink. And it's because of the situations I've been put under. I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but as immigrants, again, people tend to reach out to ask for help financially. Not a bad thing. I encourage it actually for some people to do, because you never know if there's someone who can actually lend a hand. Whoa. I don't know if you guys heard that. That was crazy weather. And to think I'm going to go to the gym after this. We love that. All to get a nice butt. Anyways, so my beef is not with people asking people for money, because I believe that if you need help, reach out to your friends, ask for help. Reach out to your families, ask for help. My issue is when certain family members act a certain way when you can't provide for them. This is where my overthinking happens, because I've been put in a situation when y'all know I'm broke. Y'all know I am poor. I'm doing this podcasting thing. You know, I'm charting in different countries, and I'm not getting revenues from this, right? I'm not making money out of this podcast. This podcast is purely, because I want to do it. For those of you who don't know, I'm in a different line of work that I have to do in order to actually pay my bills, right? Not just working at Starbucks, right? I'm not ashamed of it. I just don't want to talk about it yet, because it's going to be a big episode. But I work hard. Might not seem like it. I stream too. I don't have a lot of time in my hands. It might seem like I do, but I fucking don't. Because I'm working 24/7, right? This on top of all of my mental health disorders, I'm spent. Every time I'm spent. And there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than having a family member come to you, ask you for money, and say, I'm so sorry I can't help you out right now. And for them to tell you, what is that term in English? I have to Google this because I don't know what it is in English. It's funny. I think I do, but I don't. Well, they say you're madamot. Selfish. Oh my God. Why did I forget about that word? They call you selfish. And you're sitting there, dick in your hand, like, great. That's like, apparently I'm fucking selfish. I'm working so fucking hard just so I can afford living in this country, just so I can have food on the table, not have to worry about, asking for a loan just so I can live. And here comes a family member of mine that I love tell me I'm selfish because I can't fund their child's birthday party. How many of us have had to deal with that from people back home? I should be like, take out these sunglasses. Sorry, it's shady in here. That's why I put these on. But it sucks. It breaks my heart. Because now I feel bad about myself, and because it feels like I can't provide for my family members. And now they're probably telling everybody in our small town how much of a selfish bitch I am because I couldn't afford to do it. And then I have my family members that I grew up with, who I fucking absolutely love. And they ask me for money sometimes. I think they know I'm broke now. They don't have the same reaction. You know what they say instead? They say, that's okay. We love you so much. Don't forget that. Every fucking time I talk to them, not even just for money or whatever, they remind me of that. And it's moments like that where it feels great to know that, okay, I still have family members that are like this. But those are the only ones I talk to now. Because I know that they're not just after money. And it's not even about that. They know that to come to me for help when they need it. And they know that if I have it, I will do it. That's family, right? Unfortunately, again, there is the other side, right? There's the other part, the other family members you have that does these things. It sucks. It fucking sucks. But because of what transpired, between you and that family member. The overthinking sets in. I now feel like not only them, I also can't talk to other members of the family back home because I don't know what they have said already. And I'm afraid that if I reach out, I'm going to get the cold shoulder. I'm afraid that if I reach out, I'm going to get yelled at. All these thoughts that you start to overthink because one person decided to call you selfish for not being able to provide for them because you can't. Overthinking. I mean, yeah, that was a dick move, but that's still overthinking. Imagine if you actually never did any overthinking at all and this happened. You go about with your lives. You talk to whoever you want to. You talk to your old family members. And when they bring it up, you can just be like, yeah, they call me selfish because I'm broke. Like, what? And then you move on. Cleared the air. Now they look like the bad guy because they were. Right? But a lot of us, especially because it's attached to family, some of us are still in that zone where we don't really want to ruffle feathers in our family line. So we're just going to leave it alone. And we're just never going to talk to any of them ever again. Which is even fucking worse. It's a complicated dynamic, but I know a lot of you can actually relate to that. Especially those of you who have immigrated from a different country. And for those of you who are listening right now back in the Philippines, right? Back home. Just take that into consideration too. Maybe y'all are overthinking too when somebody says no to you. A lot of that does stem from it. The thought process could be, oh, they don't want to give me money. They don't care about me. They don't want to give me money. They're just going to let me die. I don't want a family member like that. I'm really... And you know, there's a wall that gets put up when overthinking happens. It's the wall between you and logic, between you and reason. There's a divide all of a sudden because you can't see things for what they are when you start to overthink. Seriously, it is one of the worst fucking things ever. If overthinking was a supervillain, I think it'd be one of the hardest fucking villains to fight. Because at any moment, you can overthink things. When you're doing exams, you know the answer, then you overthink. But it could also be B, C, or D. And then you start to rationalize why B is good, why C is good, oh, why D is also good, when the answer was A, and you know the answer is A. It happens every day. It's a very common thing to overthink. Unfortunately for some of us, it is much, much worse. Going back to dating, right? How many relationships actually ended because the person was overthinking the entire time? Mine. Okay? That's a perfect example, right? And mine turned into something so toxic. Right? It turned me into a monster. It really did. How many relationships didn't get to form, no matter how perfect the two people were, because of overthinking? Because one person thought that, hey, they're going to talk to other people while we're talking to each other. And then you start to attach, this is so funny, personal experience. And then you start to, attach them talking to other people as them cheating on you. First of all, bitch, y'all not even together. Second of all, y'all not even exclusive. You're only mad because you're not talking to other people. They didn't ask you not to. You chose that. And then you're going to start to say, well, if he can't be like this for me, I won't, maybe it's not worth it. But hello, when you first met, didn't you say that we should, get to know each other? And that's it. There's nothing else in that contract that says anything otherwise. But, that's a conversation for another time, right? But again, that's where the overthinking sets in. Because overthinking helps. And I don't mean help, but overthinking helps you make up crazy expectations of people that you never tell them. Imagine if you just didn't overthink situations. You find out they went out on dates with 3 other people, and they're still talking to you every day, why do you care about those other relationships they have? You're not together. Focus on your own. You can also do the same things, but you're overthinking. You're sitting there and you're like, oh, I wonder how that went. Oh, let me think about how potentially that could have gone. Oh, let me think about potentially what they could have talked about. Oh, let me think about, oh, shut the fuck up. Stop. Like, what? And yes, I'm talking to myself here, because these are things that I do. So if you felt attacked by that, I mean, you and I need to really, rein it in, right? We need to reel it in a little bit. But it is possible to be okay. I used to be like that. Not anymore. It's funny that I'm talking about this and I have provided almost no solution as to how to overcome overthinking. The one thing that I did find that was super effective, for me at least, was writing it down. Journaling. Journaling helps so much. Because once it's on paper, right? You can write as angrily as you want. Or you can write as scared or as sad as you want when you're overthinking. When you reread it, you actually get a sense of, whoa, that's kind of funny. Like, that's kind of weird. What? And it helps negate that emotion that overthinking tends to bring out of you. So try journaling. Talking to other people, it kind of helps momentarily, because you start to attach their response, right, to them as a person. Sometimes you start overthinking the response and you say, oh, well, they're just my friend, and they're probably saying this because da. No. So you have to deal with it yourself. And journaling has been one of the best tools for that. So if you guys are like me and you overthink a lot of situations in your life, write it down. Don't type, actually. One thing that I learned in therapy, typing things, I mean, you're putting down, but there's something about writing. Almost like muscle memory, almost like, because you're writing it, it's like you're etching it on somewhere. It's like, it feels almost permanent, right? So write it with a pen. My God, I didn't realize what time it was. Jesus Christ. See how overthinking can rile me up. It's so funny. This entire season, I keep saying I'm going to have a guest. I only had like, one or two guests that are on here. Guys, please, if you or someone have something to talk about when it comes to mental health or like their lives or relationships or sex or whatever, please get on the show. You can email me breakingdownthebreakdown at outlook.com, or you can find me on Instagram, Breaking Down the Breakdown Pod. Guys, this was this is a life-changing episode, only because I start to realize midway through things that I'm talking about that I'm probably actually still dealing with some of these things in my life right now. And I now have to go journal and fucking figure this shit out, because I'm starting to see things in a different light, and I'm like, wow, I might have made certain bad decisions, and I gotta go fix that right now. Anyways, I gotta go. Thank you so much for being here. Please remember, be compassionate, be kind. You never know what the other person is going through. No matter how bad they are, no matter how terrible they seem, always act with kindness first. They can catch your hands later. No, I'm kidding. Please don't. I do not condone violence at all. Y'all know me. I cannot fight. I do not want to fight. But seriously, always put your best foot forward, and that best foot better have love, compassion, and kindness tattooed all over it. You really never know how far it's going to take a person. You have no idea how many times kind people have helped me get out of situations that I never thought I was going to get out of, just by being kind to me. So please practice that. I love you guys so much. I will see you later. Thanks for being here with me. Bye.